Thankfully, the microphone is recording now because I just recorded the first start of this video and realized the microphone wasn't on. So, welcome back to the Barrett channel. Yet again with a brand new video. We're taking another stroll, going to be having a nice little chat. And as you can see, it's a wonderful day today. It's about, I've just realized I've come out and I'm way too hot in just a jumper, and it's, middle of January, middle of winter in Shenzhen. So can't really complain, because back in my home country in England, it would be freezing and rainy right now, but I'm enjoying the sunny weather. So anyway, today's topic you will have known by the title already. Bit of a taboo, touchy, controversial, all of those kind of things kind of topic. We're going to be talking about sex education here in China and comparing it to my experiences from back home. I'm only going to talk about my own experiences. I'm kind of interested in this topic, so I've actually had several conversations with different people over the time that I've been in China. But I just want to throw it out there that I don't represent 1.4 billion people. So whatever I do say, take it as you please, because this is from my own experiences. Like I said, if this isn't a true representation of what's in your hometown or wherever you live in China or wherever in the world, then please let me know in the comments and correct me. Let's engage in some conversation, because I'll be sure to read it and reply to you. Anyway, so I just want to start off by thanking everyone massively for watching our videos, and a special thank you as always to those people who really make it possible for us to spend so much time making them. And they are the ones who are supporting us on WeChat, buy me a coffee, or becoming a patron. So thank you ever so much. So, sex education. I'm going to start off by explaining sort of what our level of sex education was when I was young. So I grew up in a town in England, and the curriculum in England, the education, is quite uniform across the country because there's a standard level of curriculum that needs to be taught in all schools, right? So in year 5, which is when I'm about 10 years old, is when we got first introduced to sex education. It was very, very minimal. And at this time, you're kids, you're immature, you get very, very basic level understanding of, the sex organs, things like that, how a baby is made and whatnot. And I don't think we were introduced to contraceptive methods at this point. They did teach a little bit to the boys and girls separately. I remember we were told to get out of the classroom when they were talking about the menstrual cycle, which I actually completely disagree with, because guys should know about this just as much as girls do. And if they're still doing that now, I'd be very surprised. But this is 12 years ago, so that's what they did. They split us up anyway. When it got to year 6 and 7 and 8, which is like 10 to 13 years old, we started getting education about contraceptive methods. We had one class called General Studies, right? And one term in this class, maybe like 10 or 12 lessons, would be purely about sex education. So we'd be introduced to contraceptive methods, diseases, STIs, all of that stuff. And we also had a school nurse, right? If you ever had any personal problems that you didn't want to discuss, with friends or whatever, you could go to the school nurse and she would help you out. So that's basically, we had a fair amount of sex education, I guess. I don't really have anything to compare it to, so I can't really tell you if it was enough or not. In our culture in England, the whole sex thing is a little bit taboo. I feel like it's a little bit taboo in every country, to be honest. But it's much less taboo to talk about than it is here in China. It's not frowned upon or anything. People will talk about it, and there's a lot of sort of media about things revolving sex, etc. You're not going to get sort of, I guess there are still stigmas attached to the ways that some people go about sex. absolutely no doubt, and I think that still exists in. I think that still exists in every culture, to be honest. But absolutely, here in China, it is very much more taboo, and I do think this does stem from having sex education from a young age. For example, you know, there's not a lot of provocative clothing worn in China. I think there's a big sort of stigma attached to if you are wearing what you wish to wear, and it does flaunt, you know, some assets that you do have or whatever. So from what I've talked to people that I know about sex education here in China, from the people that I've spoken to, they didn't have any when they were growing up, and they actually told me that when girls started to hit puberty and were going through their menstrual cycle, nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew what was going on, and people were scared and kind of worried. And you know, some people would approach their parents if they were comfortable enough to do so, but then some obviously wouldn't. They probably hide it, and you know, it's probably really mentally unhealthy. I've spoken to some people here, and you know, you can make your own judgments as to where I've gotten this information or whatever, but I've just been interested about this topic and discussed it with several people. So they've basically told me that a lot of people have no clue that other contraceptive methods even exist, and they're so normal in the Western society that, you know, the birth control pill, you know, the injection, the list goes on. But here, it seems that it's either using a condom or nothing. And the lack of sex education on contraceptive methods, obviously, as you can imagine, leads to a very drastic increase in abortions and the use of the morning after pill. I've also been told by people that the use of the morning after pill it's seen as kind of a normal part of life here, which is, you know, it's not really nice to hear, because obviously it's essentially an abortion. That really should be seen as like a complete last resort if all else fails and you're super, you know, anxious about something that's gone on, and you think you could potentially get pregnant. That is last resort, right? Because the side effects, you know, what you're actually doing is kind of unethical, and all of these things that go with it. So that's seen as a last resort. But I've been told by several people here that that's kind of a normal part of life. Not everybody, but a lot of them are taken. So yeah, as I said, what happens in turn is the level of abortion rate is quite, you know, high in China. I didn't want to just blurt that out there without looking up some sort of facts and figures. So here it goes. So in China, from multiple different sources, I found that from 2014 to 2016, there were 27 million recorded abortions in China. There are 650 million women in China, so that works out to 1.4 abortions per 100 women in China between that time. I did want to get you a statistic on another country just for comparison. So in 2015 in the USA, there's 168 million women in the USA, and there were 638,000 abortions. So that boils down to 0.4 abortions per 100 women in 2015. So that is almost a third decrease on what it is in China. What I will add to that as well is that that doesn't include the use of the morning after pill, and that doesn't include unrecorded abortions as well. That brings me on to another point. So in sort of rural areas in China, the traditions going back for decades is that having a boy is much more preferable. So in the sort of rural areas of China, what will still go on is that when you're able to find out the sex of the baby, it's been known that women will have abortions if they find out that they're going to have a girl, because obviously the financial burden of bringing up more than one child is too much, and because their want for a boy, they choose to get an abortion. Now obviously this is an issue, and what I will end on is a bit more of a positive point, that these things are changing, you know. Every country goes through like revolutions, social revolutions at different stages in their development, right? So I don't even know if you can hear me with this terrible music going on beside me. So I'll give it just a second. So yeah, I was reading up, and there are huge pushes by multiple different universities to sort of start incorporating sexual education programs into their courses. There's also some big companies that are opening up from great people. One in Shanghai called Buzz and Bloom, which offers out free advice and free sex education via WeChat, which every single Chinese person has on their phone. There's also another company in Beijing called Yummy, where people can go online and they can anonymously talk about their sex-related issues and seek advice from other people that might be having the same problems. So these sorts of things are great, you know. You can clearly see that, and the government will know that it's a problem and it's something that they need to sort of clamp down on. So there's a big push all around China and around the rest of the world, which ultimately will bring down the abortion rates, will bring down the sort of transmission of sexual diseases and all of these other things. So that does bring me to the end of this video. I do hope you enjoyed. Smash that thumbs up button if that is something that you're into doing, and subscribe if you haven't already and you like this content on the channel. And like I said, if you disagree with anything that I said, or even if you just want to leave a comment to engage in conversation, that's wonderful. Make sure you do that too, and ring those bells so that you never miss a Barrett Boy video. Okay, so we will see you in the next one as always. Catch you later in a bit.